Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for joining me today. For today's video, I have the first look at the new Morphe and Jaclyn Hill eyeshadow palette, and I know everybody and their dog has done one of these videos already, but I did want to share with you my thoughts and you know, just what I think of this palette overall. I am wearing it on my eyes today, and I did use it yesterday. I just received it yesterday, or I just got my order in yesterday, which I thought kind of took a little while for it to get here, but you know, it's whatever. I know they were bombarded with a ton of orders, I'm sure. So this is what the box looks like. It just says the Jaclyn Hill palette, and this is kind of like a silver reflective part of the box, and then the rest is just kind of all matte, and then down here it does say Morphe, and then the back it does have some photos of Jaclyn, and these look like they were taken maybe last summer or maybe even, you know, early fall or something, but there's her photos, and then she did write a little message about the palette and as to like why she chose the colors she did and whatnot. So this is what the overall palette looks like. Again, it does have the Jaclyn Hill palette on it, and this part is like that silver reflective, and then the back just says Morphe times Jaclyn Hill, and then this part does say like JH all over it. It's for Jaclyn Hill. And yeah, so I'm really pleased that my box came not broken or anything, which that would have been a total bummer if it would have, but yeah. So I also did get this little postcard here that has the Morphe times Jaclyn Hill eyeshadow palette. There's Jaclyn's photo as well as an eye look she created, and then here are the shade names of the palette and the colors. And I know a lot of people did not receive this little postcard with their palette, which I think is kind of not poor on Morphe's part, but I feel like they should have maybe created enough of these to go in with the palettes, but I don't know if maybe somebody just forgot to put them in or what was going on. But on the overall box and everything, it doesn't have like the shade names, and same thing on the inside, it doesn't have like the shade names or anything. So if you don't have this, you'll never know like what shades go with what, unless you like rewatch like Jaclyn's video or check on the Morphe website or something. So if you don't care about like what the shades are, I mean, I'd like to know what they are, but at the same time, if I didn't have this, it wouldn't be, you know, that big of a deal, I guess, you know. But it is, I am happy that I did get this with my box though. So on the inside, it did come with a piece of plastic, but I already took that off. And then this just says, this palette was dedicated to all my loving subscribers, XO Jaclyn, and mine did not come signed. I wish, that would have been cool, but it did not. But this is what the overall palette looks like on the inside. It's really, really pretty, and I love it. I think she did such a good job creating, you know, neutral shades as well as adding some fun pops of color, and this is like the perfect palette. I feel like if you have this palette, I just feel like, you know, this covers everything that you would want in a palette, just because it, like I said, it does have, you know, pops of color, and then it does have your warm neutrals as well as some cool tone shades. I would say that this palette leans more on the warm toned side though, so if you are maybe a cool tone eyeshadow fan, you might not love this palette just because there aren't like a ton of cool tone shades, I feel. But yeah, that's my just overall first impressions on the palette, that, you know, the shades are really nice and whatnot. So like I said, I did use this palette today on my eyes as well as yesterday, and I love the shades in here. So I'm gonna give you guys a few swatches, and then I'll put I'll put full swatches at the end of this video or somewhere in this video, because I did swatch this entire palette yesterday, and I took it with my iPhone, so I will insert those photos somewhere in this video. But I will go ahead and swatch a few. So I'm going to swatch a couple of these matte shades. So here's this one on my finger. Let's do this one. And let's do a couple more mattes. That one. Not going in with a heavy hand or anything. So here are a few finger swatches of the palette. And I will go ahead and swatch them on my arm so you guys can see what they look like. Okay, so here's a few of the matte eyeshadows swatched. Really, really pretty, and I think they swatch really good, actually. And I know matte eyeshadows can be a little bit difficult to create, I feel, just because it's hard to get them to swatch properly and then perform the same on the eyes. And I feel like the mattes are a little bit powdery versus the shimmers. Okay, so now I'm going to swatch a few of these shimmer shades. So let's do this one. We'll do this one. Of course, we have to do the blue one because everybody swatches that one, and you know, you have to do the blue one. And then we will do this purple one. So here's some of the swatches here on my finger. These shimmers are insane. The shimmers in this palette, I think the shimmers in this palette make the palette. Like, I would totally buy this palette if it only had the shimmers. So here's the shimmers, and there's some of the matte. Okay, so here is some of the swatches of the palette. Up here we have some of the matte shades, and then down here we have some of the shimmer shades. The shimmer shades in this palette are insane. I love the shimmer shades in this palette. I feel like a little goes a long way with the shimmer shades, and I think the matte shades are good too. They might not swatch the greatest. Like, I mean, I feel like the mattes do swatch good, but compared to the shimmers, there's like no comparison, I feel. But overall, I really like this palette. I will say, if you own a ton of warm tone eyeshadows, or if you own a ton of shimmer shades, you probably don't need this palette. But if you're just getting into makeup, or you want a one and done palette, this is a really great option because, like I said, you have everything you need in this palette. You have a ton of warm tone shadows and pops of color and shimmer, and there's even a glitter infused shade in here, which I will go ahead and swatch that for you. When I swatch it, it doesn't look like there's glitter in it, but once you apply it to the eye, or you know, do a finger swatch, you can see the glitter, but there's no fallout, which is insane and incredible. Now, I will say, when I first got the palette and I swatched that glitter shade, it felt a little, what's the word, gritty, I guess. But now that I'm swatching it again, when I just swatched it, I didn't have that feeling, so I didn't feel that way. So yeah, overall, I think this palette is worth it, and I think, you know, if you love Jaclyn Hill, or you just love eyeshadow in general, I think this is a really great palette to have in your collection or stash. And I think Jaclyn did an amazing job on this palette, and I'm really happy to have gotten my hands on it, and I can't wait to pull this in for more fall and winter and just use it all the time. I think it's a really all-around great palette. So yeah, thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. If you are new here and this is your first time seeing my video, then please take a moment and subscribe down below, because it would really mean a lot to me, and I will see you guys in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you later. Bye.